Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Tacoma Cyclist. I am the Tacoma Cyclist, and with me as always is my sidekick, the Boogeyman. Today, we're going to look at this. Fast Forward's F4R Tubular Race Wheel Set. Now this is going to be a slightly different review because as you'll notice, the Boogeyman and I jump in and out of, well, different clothes a lot. And that's because we originally shot this review, or the start of this review, maybe 6 months ago, when we got these wheels to begin with. So we purchased these wheels, we weighed these wheels, we got them tired up and ready to go, and the Boogeyman has actually been racing the majority of this entire season on those wheels. So we've had plenty of time to use the wheels, try them out, test them, compare them to a couple of other sets that we have around the house here. But for the most part, he's been testing them out. And I really haven't had the opportunity to do so. I've put a couple hundred miles on them only. He's put the majority of the miles on those wheels. So you're going to see us jumping back and forth, and that's from the day that we got the wheels and unboxed them, and then to today where we're telling you a little bit about their quality overall. As is usual, when we get a brand new product like this in the studio, we are going to do a quick unboxing, and that's what we're going to do here first. I have to admit, we're going to cheat. We've already done a little bit of unboxing just to check these out, partially because the packaging was so damaged coming from FedEx that I wanted to make sure that everything was okay. So that being said, the box has already been opened, but what you see inside the box when I pull it out here is going to be exactly the same way it was when we got the wheels in the first place. So, as you can see, it comes with a nice bag for the wheels, or for blocking your co-host. And inside the bag, of course, are the wheels themselves, but I'm going to start off with the accessories. Now, they're supposed to come with Swiss stop brake pads. For some reason, mine did not, so I'll have to find out why that is. Shoulder strap, skewers, and these appear to be, I'm guessing, they appear to be titanium. They're extremely lightweight skewers. They're on par with some of the other skewers that we have from other brands that are lightweight and titanium. We've got some Salsa titaniums and some Zip titaniums, and they're in that same range. Some very short valve extenders. These are a little bit of a deep section wheel. And then, of course, the wheels. And in this particular case, we opted for the standard hubs. They are made by DT Swiss, but they're not the 240s. And we opted for the black on white, or white on black color scheme, since they match both of our bikes pretty well. And these wheels are going to be race wheels that he and I both use. So I'd like to note about this review that while we're going to do our best to be as objective as possible about wheels, we don't have a lot of scientific equipment to measure wheels like rolling resistance or anything else like that. What we do have is the ability to, of course, measure the weight of the wheels. And I've got a couple other good sets of wheels here in the studio that I can try them out against. In this particular case, we're going to try them out against a pair of Mavic Caseriums, and we're going to try them against a pair of Zip 303s. In both cases, those are going to be clincher wheel sets versus tubulars. However, we've got some pretty good tires on those overall, so the comparison should be relatively similar. Obviously, there's going to be a difference in weight, difference in rolling resistance with a clincher versus a tubular. But this is going to be maybe one of those good reviews for somebody who's considering going from a clincher wheel set to a tubular wheel set, especially for a race day type thing. This particular set of wheels retails in the range of around $2,000 a set. But as one of my mechanic friends said, that he's never seen a set of Fast Forward wheels go for actual retail price. In this particular case, we got them significantly below half that price, under $1,000 for a wheel set. Well under $1,000 for a wheel set, brand new in the box, which is a pretty good deal for a wheel that claims to be 1,250 grams and is a carbon tubular that actually has some race heritage behind it that is race proven. So first things first, let's go ahead and weigh these wheels, compare them to what they say they're going to be. If you check out Fast Forward's materials online, they say they come in at 1,250 grams, which for a 40 millimeter or so deep wheel section, I think it's 45 millimeter deep wheel section, that's freaking impressive. So let's see if it holds up to the claims of 1,250 grams. Of course, that's dry weight, so no glue, no tubulars, wheels, no cassette, and no skewers on that as well. So this is completely out of the box weight, nothing added to it. So we'll check that in just a moment. Okay, as you can see, this actually comes in pretty close to what Fast Forward advertises. They advertise 1,250 grams for the wheel set, and we're coming in at 1,290. This scale's pretty close to accurate overall, but just to make sure, I measured it 3 times. We had measurements ranging between 1,280 grams and 1,295 grams, so I think 1,290 is pretty close to accurate. All in all, a very light set of wheels. So I've got some Zip 303s I'm going to compare these to that are rolling on Michelin Pro 4s, and I've got some Mavic Caseriums that are rolling on actually the Mavic tires, the Ixiom Pros that come with those. And we'll also compare maybe against another tire that's got some Vittorias on them as well. So right now we don't have these glued down to any tubulars yet, but we are going to put some on here shortly. We're going to talk about the rims themselves. We're going to talk a little bit about the build quality. So there is some speculation out on the interwebs that these rims actually come from China. Now, honestly, I think it's entirely possible. I don't really care, but I do think it's entirely possible. One of the interesting things is on the rims here, it says hand built in Holland. And if you watch the videos from their own website, yeah, it looks like they're just kind of lacing some hubs to these. But they are doing them by hand, and they are hand tensioning them. And I will say, out of the box, these things are dead true. They're absolutely spot on true. So I think the quality is great. The actual fit and finish appears to be pretty solid. I have noticed some minor things around the brake track where maybe the resin didn't get filled in 100% of the way, but it doesn't look like it's anything that's going to impact the performance of the wheel. And I bet that once I actually mount up some brake pads to this thing, it's not even going to be noticeable. So, like I said, the rims, again, potentially Chinese rims, but to be honest with you, very, very high build quality, very high finish. I really, really like the sheen to this as compared to my 303s, which kind of a matte finish. This kind of has a gloss finish to it. It's got a nice clear coat over it, and the labels themselves, the lettering on these, is actually underneath of that clear coat, so there's no peeling these off. If you hit a rock on the side, like my 303s, I've lost some of the lettering because a rock chip pitched up and peeled some of that off. You won't have that problem with this. Of course, with a clear coat, you might wind up getting some scratches in the clear coat, but it is what it is. The hubs on this say made by DT Swiss. I can tell you these aren't 240s or 180s, but they are pretty solid hubs, and in fact you can recognize the instant DT Swiss sound. Great sounding hub. You don't need a bell on your bike if you happen to be riding on trails with this. You just free hub for a second. Anybody on the trail will be able to turn around and know you're right behind them. So that's my way of greeting people on the trail, is just to let them know I'm behind you, and spun it the wrong way. I'm behind you. Here you go. So overall, really good build quality. The weight just about spot on for where it should be. We're going to go and get these shoot up, and then we'll come back and do some comparisons and some evaluations. So first things first, make no mistake, these are race day wheels. These are not wheels you go on your local club ride with. You don't go on training rides with these wheels unless you're putting on new tires and you want to get them broken in a little bit. You don't take these on just everyday rides. You take these on race day. And as such, the Boogeyman's been racing on these wheels the majority of the season. In fact, I think almost every race, if not every race you did this season, was on those wheels. And on his, well, there were a couple days you used one of your other wheel sets that we won't mention here because those are going to be coming up in a different review. But in a couple races, he raced on some aluminum clinchers as well. But for the most part, for race day, this wheel was the wheel that went on his bike. There's one exception to that, and for sure, and that's when he had a flat. And of course, that's one of the downsides of a tubular. Changing a flat is not particularly easy. And when you get to a race and you find out you have a flat, well, that just stinks. So he rode with a Zip 303 on his front, mine, because I got finished racing early that day. That's what happens when you get dropped. You finish early. And then he was able to use my Zip 303 on the front of his bike and the Fast Forward F4R on the rear. Now, his bike has been shoot up with the Fast Forward F4R with the Michelin Pro 4 service course tires on that bike, which actually suit up really well. He's been using a 25 millimeter tire, which actually balloons up to about 27.5 millimeters on that particular wheel on that bike. So tires tend to go a little bit wider on that because it has a slightly wide profile rim overall. It's not super wide. My zips are a little bit wider, but only a little bit. And his other aluminum clinchers, which are designed to be wide tires, tend to go about a full millimeter wider when you blow up the same tire on that same rim. Now, before you give me a lot of grief in the comments about using tire and wheel interchangeably, the Boogeyman keeps pointing out to me that I keep talking about tires on tires or wheels on wheels. Yeah, so I can be stupid every once in a while and use the wrong words. Bear with me. Feel free to pick on me in the comments all you want. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But of course, I mean put a tire on a wheel. You don't put a wheel on a wheel or a tire on a tire, so my bad. So let's talk about overall impressions of this wheel set. Like I said, I've put a couple hundred miles on it, but the majority of the miles have been put on by the Boogeyman. All in all, we've probably got a little over 1,000 miles on these wheels, and I got to tell you, from my perspective, I love them. They're great wheels, very lightweight, extremely quick getting up to speed, and you definitely notice shaving off 300 to 400 grams off of a wheel set. So I think the Boogeyman would agree that these wheels are first-rate wheels, especially given the price that we paid for them. Like I said, they tend to run in the $2,000 range if you look at MSRP or if you look at advertised prices most anywhere. But there's almost always a deal to be had on the Fast4R F4Rs. We got ours for actually about $700 for the set, brand new. $700 well spent. The Boogeyman rolls on Mavic Caesariums in training season, particularly when it's wet and nasty outside. If you're going to shred a wheel, that's a good one to shred. In comparison, I think the Boogeyman will agree that the Caesariums just don't hold a candle to the F4Rs. The F4Rs obviously are lighter, only by much, not by much. The Caesariums are light wheels in their own right. But as far as comfort, what would you say?
The Fast4Rs are much comfortable.
Much comfortable.
Much
the Fast4Rs
more.
are much comfortable. That's excellent. We are working on grammar skills with them as well, but that's okay. Yes, the Fast4Rs are much more comfortable, and that's actually something very noticeable. Because of the way the tires blow up on that wheel, they are a little bit wider. You can run a lot lower pressure. The Boogeyman runs about 75 to 80 PSI on those Fast4Rs, just because it's a wider tire overall, wider wheel profile overall, which does make for a nice, comfortable ride. Whereas on the Mavics, we typically go around 90 PSI. It's a narrower wheel profile, so it makes it a little bit, or a narrower tire profile. Bunch of hard words to say together. So it makes it a little bit more important to have a higher tire pressure on that, which increases the rolling resistance, makes it a little bit more rigid. Side wind performance. So I'm coming from the Zip 303 as my primary wheel. I use that probably 70 to 80% of the year. I just don't use it during the rainy, nasty season in the winter. From my perspective, wind profile is pretty good overall. Now, the 303s are good at being not blown around really heavily, even in really hard side winds. The F4Rs are good. I mean, he's a whopping 75 pounds wearing a sweater after he's gotten rained on. So if there's a bike that's going to get pushed around on the front end, it's just going to toss him around. So we've ridden in some very heavy windstorms, rainstorms, and he's had no problems with those wheels getting tossed around. I noticed that the performance in the wind was a little twitchier than the 303s, but only a little twitchier, not significant. At no point did I feel like the wheels were dangerous or that they were a problem. Overall, again, lightweight, smooth rolling, very not susceptible to those side winds. Again, you are going to notice a little bit of twitchiness in a 25, 30 mile an hour side wind, but even a shallow box section wheel is going to exhibit those same behaviors. So let's talk about the look of these wheels and the durability of these wheels as well. As far as the look is concerned, I think the Boogeyman can agree that these are some dang sexy wheels. They look great. Everybody notices when you roll up with these wheels. Now, of course, when an 11-year-old rolls up to the line, rolling on $2,000 carbon wheels, yeah, people are going to notice. But he gets noticed a lot on those wheels. And of course, we're happy to tell people that we got a bargain on them and how to get bargains on them. In our case, we picked them up from a company on the internet called The Racery. They discard stuff that comes out of teams after the teams have gotten done using them. Sometimes the stuff is brand new and it's never been touched. Other times it's been ridden on. In this case, again, they were brand new, $700 for the set. So yeah, every time the Boogeyman shows up to a race riding those, it's invariably he's going to get some comments on them. The decaling on them looks great. The high gloss finish is super easy to clean. The hubs are bomb proof. We don't do a whole lot of special washing when we wash these. We just get some, we get a hose, we get a scrub brush, and we get into the rear cogs and start scrubbing. On my zips, especially with the factory hubs, I've had to replace the bearings in those 4 times in the past 2 years. Until now, I've finally gone with a DT Swiss hub on the back of those. On his fast forwards, quick scrub down with the hose and the scrub brush and some soap, and you're good to go. On the outer rim surface, it cleans really easily. It comes to a nice high gloss shine perfectly. So they look perfectly race ready every single time you give them a quick wash. Dry them with a microfiber cloth. After beating them up this year, riding in just about every condition, rain, heavy winds, actually some pretty good thunderstorms in those, they still look like they're brand new. They still act and feel like they're brand new. A couple, maybe 1,200, 1,500 miles on them. They are still perfectly true, just the same as the day we got them. So they haven't had to be trued up at all. And again, overall, just a bomb-proof wheel. Let's talk about braking performance. Again, we've ridden these in the rain many times, and that's the first question a lot of people are going to have about a carbon wheel, regardless of clincher or tubular, in the rain is how does it brake? Well, frankly, they brake just as terribly as any other carbon wheel. I haven't found a carbon wheel yet that brakes perfectly or wonderfully. There's still that moment when you grab the shifters or the brakes and you squeeze and you think to yourself, oh dear Lord, I'm going to die. And then about a half a second later, your brakes kick in just fine. Well, that's the same with these wheels as well. So if you're expecting to ride these in the rain, just practice getting the wheels wet and squeezing that brake handle and finding out that you got about a half a second, maybe 1 or even 2 full rotations of the wheel before the water's cleared off, and then they brake. We've been using Black Prince brake pads. I've been using those on my zips. We've been using those on his fast forwards. They work great. They're fantastic brake pads, so no issues there. The one thing we have noticed, of course, is changing wheels out, race wheels versus non-race wheels or race wheels versus training wheels, is that we have to swap out the brake pads and then we have to adjust the brake clearance every single time. So it's a little bit of a pain in the butt. When people tell you that tubulars in general are a pain in the butt, well, sure, if you have a flat, they can be a pain. We have a guy that does wheels and tires here very well, and he helps us out by gluing our tubulars. It doesn't cost very much to glue up a set of tubulars. He fills them with a sealant and glitter mixture, so that way if there is a puncture, it actually seals up pretty well. So we haven't had anything other than that one puncture, which was a pretty deep gouge. We haven't had any problems with it. They roll very nicely, and we've been very excited. If the question for you is, should I go with tubulars or should I go with clinchers? Unfortunately, there's no really easy way to break that down. If you're looking for a race wheel, there's no harm in going with a tubular wheel. We really like this wheel. It's worked out great for him. He hasn't had any unexpected surprises on it other than showing up and finding out it was flat on the day of a race. Of course, in any race, if you have a flat, you're stranded unless you have a follow car. So it doesn't really matter that much. At least with a tubular, and if it flats, you can still roll back in maybe at a slow pace, but you're not stranded 6, 10, 15, 20 miles away from the starting line with no way to get back. So from that perspective, sure, tubulars are great. They're great for race day wheels. If you're using them for training day wheels, that would just be a stupid decision, so don't do it. Stick with clinchers, stick with tubeless wheels, whatever you want to use for training, but don't use tubular wheels for that. Of course, one of the other perspectives is price. Not a lot of people have a lot of extra money floating around just to have a set of wheels for training, a set of wheels for aggressive riding or Tuesday night worlds, and then yet another set of wheels for racing. In this case, if you can get them cheap, $700 for the pair for us I think was a pretty good deal. That was actually cheaper than the Mavics that we have that we use for training wheels now. I think it was a no-brainer. So if you can pick them up inexpensively, go for it. I think it's a no-brainer. At the end of the day, if you do most of your riding on the road with your buddies and you're not doing a lot of racing, stick with clinchers, stick with tubeless. If you're doing racing a lot, I think all told you did probably 18 to 20 races throughout the last summer. So that's, most weekends they're on the bike the entire weekend. So why not, right? They're lighter, they roll smooth, they corner fantastically, they look awesome, and hey, they're just cool. So why not? If you're looking for a set of tubular race wheels, there are plenty to choose from. Almost every major manufacturer still makes tubular wheels. I know some people have said tubulars are dying out, they're not worth it anymore, but that's just simply not true. If you look at any wheel maker's catalog, they're going to have tubular wheels in there. Where do these rank in the pantheon of all tubular wheels? Well, I've only ridden a few sets of tubular wheels, so I can't say that this is any better or any worse than any other one. What I can tell you is that they're a great bargain. At $700, of course they're a great bargain. And even at $2,000, I still think they hold up quite well to something like my Zips, which were more expensive and are a clincher. So even at that price, I think they're a great bargain. Should you go out and get them? Yeah, why not? If that's something you're looking at doing, is getting some tubular race wheels, these are really good choices for you. They're very light, they roll great. We just can't say enough positive about these wheels. Would I take them over a set of Zips for maybe another $1,000? Yeah, probably I would, especially given the price difference. Even at full retail price of $2,000, the Zips are still over $1,000 more. Braking performance is very similar. Wind performance is very similar. The difference is they're lighter, and well, they're $1,000 cheaper. So your wallet's going to be a little heavier when you're done if you buy the fast forwards, but that's the only thing that's going to be heavier. Okay, thanks so much for visiting us and checking out a review of the Fast Forward F4R Carbon Tubular Wheel Set. We really appreciate you stopping by, and we really appreciate it also if you comment on this video. If you like it, press the thumbs up, and of course, share this with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Thanks. Testing, testing, testes, testes, 1, 2, 3, testes, 1, 2, 3.